Hi, Laura. We missed you.
I missed you guys. Just saying to Ash, I finally feel like human today after
Mhm.
2 weeks of not at all.
I'm
Here we
sorry.
are, though. We're good. Funny you mentioned that about the cortisol, though, too, because, like, honestly, I really didn't look that far into it. I wasn't aware of that. Um, and coming off of that, even though I did a taper to come off of the prednisone, I was standing with a client. Thank God she was a fucking nurse. And all of a sudden I look at her and I was like, I'm not trying to freak you out, but I'm going to pass out. And she was like, what do you mean you're going to pass out? And I was like, I'm spinning. I can't see straight. I feel really faint. Like, I'm going to faint. And she's like, well, any reason? Like, what would cause that? And I was like, I don't know. I was on medication. What medication? Prednisone. This is my last day. And she's like, yep, that'll do it. And I'm like, all right, we're good. Like, literally had to like sit in the corner and like let it pass. And I'm like, oh shit, this is embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so you did a good thing because, like, obviously tapering is still smart. But still, like, I think in your case, because your adrenal gland's already kind of delicate as is, like, that's probably why you experienced that. But
Oh, for
also,
sure.
I don't always know everything, but that would be my guess.
Yeah, that was looking it up after. That's it. It does say that that's pretty common.
Mm, word. Word.
Good times.
Mina, anything new in your life? I know you said you're excited for Garrett competing because that's coming up soon.
Yeah, we leave in 2 weeks. I do have 3 girls competing in the bend meter today. I have two opposing
Woo!
clients, and a full-time client. So if I seem a little distracted, we're kind of like
That's right.
bikinis,
Amateur or pro?
pro qualifier.
Okay, well, this
So
that it's a pro-am.
yeah. So one bikini, two wellness, both wellness girls, one there overall. One is class B and one is class B. But I
Nice.
think
Congratulations.
I think there's only 2 pro cards for wellness, so
Gotcha.
it'll be
Mm.
interesting to
Did
see
you see,
how.
did you guys see that girl, Meg, that she's natural for pro bikini? That was a top call out. Her glutes are the craziest thing I've ever seen in her front
Can you
shot.
send a photo to us in the group
Yeah.
chat?
I know exactly who you're talking about, and her
You were,
feedback at her last show was that her glutes were too big. I'm like, "What a problem to have."
yeah,
It's like
she's Dylan Baird's client, and
Hmm.
she looks absolutely insane.
I gotta be totally honest. I'm not like much on Instagram nowadays. Like I have my 45 minute limit, and when I time out, like I'm trying to be better about not being on it. Because I noticed that that was how I was coping with my anxiety. So although I feel much more anxious, it's because I removed a really shitty coping mechanism. So now I'm like trying to not just like do that thing that you do when you have like spare time or you're really, really anxious and you're just like, what's on Instagram? So I'm like trying to be good. So therefore, unfortunately, and that means I typically miss out on really stellar physiques.
That's
Oh, dude, she's got a donk.
crazy, right?
I like
I can see why that was her feedback though. Like your glutes are too big. Not that like
Well, they're massive from the front. They're not so massive from the back. They still look fantastic, but they don't look as like out of place if so.
yeah, I get what you're saying. Like they yeah, it looks a bit less like dramatic. Um but in her like first transition and then the front pose, I can definitely see why she looks imbalanced. But again, like what a problem to have.
Yep. She looks awesome.
She
Now,
really
is one
does.
of your wellness girls, she's not also Brittany's client, is it? She is a really good natural wellness girl competing today too. Pretty Justice. What's her name?
uh,
Our client.
I'm not. I don't
Yes,
think
she
so.
does. Yes, she
Are these
does.
posing clients of yours or coaching clients that you have competing?
One of them is a full-time client, and then
Okay,
one of them is a just posing client. She's
gotcha.
coached by the posing client's coached by John Ballard. She won the I can't remember the Texas State, the
Yes,
natural.
yes, 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 yes.
Um, and then the other one is my 5'9" wellness queen. So
Oh, she's tall.
she is tall,
She
Yeah.
but
is so tall.
her structure, and she's like, in my bikini, her structure is so wellness. Like it reminds me of like Nicole the Swole or Frida
Yep.
Paulson.
That's it. It looks different based off of height, though. Tall girl wellness doesn't quite look the same as short girl wellness. It just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, they're longer limbed, so why would it?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm literally texting her right now.
Yeah, it's okay. As needed, as needed.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
very
good. You're
Mhm.
good. But yeah,
Uh,
we're talking about gut health today, which I know is kind of like Laura's bread and butter just due to her
Yep.
extensive history with it. But I do think it would be really good to talk about like how PEDs influence gut health, not just solely talking about digestive health in terms of like what should normal be. Like we should definitely discuss what normal is because it might be normal for you not to use the bathroom for 4 or 5 days, but that certainly doesn't mean that's good or optimal. But I do think it would be also good to talk about like estrogen and then, bile flow and all that stuff as well, because it can maybe make people think about why the digestion isn't good, especially if they are running cycles, whether it is orals or injectables, because both can influence, obviously, kind of like the feedback loop when it comes to digestion. But first, let's define what is good digestion. And I think without running a circle around like super in-depth protocols, like you're going to the bathroom once a day and it looks like the poop emoji. Maybe twice a day, right? But it's like a nice little coil, right? Like, think about like a dog turd, right? And like kind of like a steaming pile, it just coils. And if it steams, cool. But like once a day, at least one of those, and you're not straining, you're not fighting tooth and nail to pop that sucker out. Like it should feel good, honestly. It should feel like a relief, right? And then after meals, you're not excessively burping, you're not having acid reflux, you're not having, farts. Now that doesn't mean that if you burp or you have hiccups or you fart that you have SIBO, right? Like we don't need to perpetuate health anxiety, which is already out of control as is. But like it is more of the, I would say, frequency and maybe even debilitation when it comes to digestive dysfunction. But Laura, I know this is also near and dear to your heart, so I'd love to hear your thoughts and inputs.
Yeah, I mean, so I think there's a million different things that can factor into this. Where are you within your bodybuilding journey? We're going to speak to bodybuilding right now. Are you in an off season? Are you in a
Mm-hmm.
contest prep? And what are the types of foods that you're eating that are causing you to have this type of relationship? Are you someone who's, intermittent fasting and having like girl dinner that you're doing a huge amount of calories at night and maybe eating once before? Are you evenly spacing your meals, eating whole foods and keeping in mind, even in an off season, that when calories are higher, you're not going crazy with volume. So there's
Mm-hmm.
so many different intricacies that can go one way or another. I think a good place to start with is just your overall habits. Are you present with your food, chewing your food thoroughly, not crazy stressed and, multitasking work and this and this and that at the same time? Are you chugging water while you're chugging water while you're eating that's making digestive and natural digestive enzyme production slow down to help break down your food?
Mm-hmm.
And then another one too is just like your overall food choices. That's going to make a difference. Even though red meat has a million different benefits with vitamins and micronutrients and all that, I typically tell people once a day with red meat just because it is a more difficult food to digest from a even protein stance compared to other proteins. Not saying red meat's bad. Some people may have iron stomach and it doesn't apply, but for the majority, especially females, I think that that's a fair rule of thumb. Um, One thing that I have definitely changed, and I will say this is probably the best off season I've ever had, that this has not happened, knock on wood, um, that my calories are higher, but my food volume is lower and my digestion is significantly better.
Mm-hmm.
And typically in the past, and like I'm that person that really enjoys different types of vegetables and fruits and, higher fiber foods. And off season was my time that like, okay, these are healthy foods. That's okay. That's great. But I would definitely end up at like 40, 45 grams of fiber a day. And for me personally, I'm speaking to me, that just doesn't work digestively. I'm either like constipated or shitting my brains out every other day. There's no
Mm-hmm.
rhyme or reason to it. So I've kind of found my sweet spot being closer to like 25, 30 max. And my digestion has been the best it's ever been in life. And
Mm-hmm.
even with injuries, you know, enhancements, not enhancements, all of that, that's kind of remained pretty rule of thumb. And I've pulled out all the artificial bullshit. I limit myself to like one um zero sugar type of soda a day. But before I was like crushing a six pack. And it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, I got you there. What about you, Miss Mina?
um, please don't hate me. So what am I reiterating? Like just my general practices. as far as like what I'm doing for gut health to make sure that we're keeping things healthy along the way. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so, like, any digestive tips that maybe you implement in your off season, especially because, like, you're at the pro level, so we wanna really respect, like, ratios, waist control, digestive health, maybe tips that you give to your girlies in terms of, like, "This is what I want to see," like, when it comes to good digestion.
So a lot of it piggybacking off of what you and Laura said, like daily bowel movements, we're not straining, it's not liquid, it's not pebbles. We want to see that. But as far as practices, keeping that food volume low,
Mhm.
um, even in prep, like and keeping fiber intake low. I made the mistake of swapping out some like not even thinking about it. I did some like higher fiber veggies and some higher fiber fruits for a while, and all of a sudden I was just constantly gassy. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then I had to reevaluate because I do more of a meal plan versus like tracking. And so I was like, oh, I'm getting like 48 grams of fiber. That'll do it. I also keep in the apple cider vinegar, glutamine, aloe vera drink year round, just to make sure my stomach acid is up. As someone who is generally prone to being high stress, it's just something that I keep in to kind of help mitigate things along the way, especially as my food volume continues to increase. Not volume, but my the amount of food I'm taking in continues to increase in this off season. I just want to make sure my stomach acid is in a good place. Um, Again, glutamine is going to feed that good gut bacteria. The aloe juice is going to help keep those tight junctures or the junctures of the stomach lining nice and tight, so we're not getting any deep gut or trying to prevent it at the very least. Um, and then chewing my food and being present with my meals, exactly like Laura said. I can't tell you how many times, like, I've done it myself, but now I'm conscious. I try to be good about it. I use the baby utensil so I'm not shoveling the food in my mouth. Like, it serves a purpose of taking more bites, but also forcing me to take smaller bites and chew thoroughly. But, like, I'll have clients or even Garrett, I'll look over and I'll be like, so did you chew your food?
Dude, literally, it's like I'm like, "Dog, fucking chew your shit," right?
Or like I'll catch them and both cheeks will be full like a chipmunk. I'm like, maybe we do one bite, chew, and then swallow. One bite, chew, and then swallow. Like if you're finishing your meal, I don't really care how big or small it is. If you're finishing it in less than 15 minutes, even if it's just a chicken and veggie, we need to reevaluate that. It should probably take you about 20 to 25 minutes to finish your meal, depending on how large it is.
Yeah.
Um, and that's because we all know digestion starts in the mouth. The saliva is going to start breaking down the food. So give it time in your mouth. Um, that,
I
that's
hope that gets clipped. Give it time in your mouth. Mine is like, "Savor that shit."
truly, and it's like you know, it's so tempting, especially when we do get deep into that off season. I mean, deep into prep, and we're hungry to try and volume hack and do 700 grams of lettuce. But this is only going to slow down our digestion, slow down our nutrient uptake, and that food volume. I mean, lettuce isn't the highest fiber thing, but that food volume is going to inhibit and take up valuable resources for that nutrient absorption. So,
Mhm.
I
um,
I can't
go
even
ahead.
think about the amount of peak weeks I've done with like absurd amounts of vegetables. Looking back at it now, I just like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Like, if I think some people forget, like, vegetables do have carbs. So, like, not even from a like, sis, you could have had, like, 50 grams of rice for the 400 grams of green beans that you were eating if we're gonna overeat. Not that you should, but it's like, it vegetables aren't 0 carbs. So, they're less, but definitely something to take into consideration. And then the artificials, even in my off season, like in the past, I used to be the girl with the sugar-free syrup and the sodas, and the Walden's Farm single-handedly ruined my digestion circa 2021. The all of the shit, the thousand
Willow
like,
Top, Walden Farms,
Quest bar,
Quest
Poots.
Bars.
Yep.
and then something else, like I tell my girls, I'm like, you can do stevia, but I think there's a lot of misinformation. Most of the stevia that you buy at the store is erythritol, and it's a blend of something. So it's not true form organic stevia.
It says
So
if it is.
yes, and the price will also
I
reflect.
was just about to say the fucking packet stevias for like a 50 I think wait, 50 or 100, I forget. The smaller one is like $6.
Mhm.
And it's like, and even that needs to have some limitations. I try to limit it to like 20 grams per day. It's still a lot, but when we're talking about like oatmeal and cream of rice and all of that thing, um, stevia sodas, but just limiting that at the end of the day, it's a choice, and you should be able to cook your food to a degree that you don't have to drown it in all these things. Um, and it's just like, even I tried to use some sugar-free syrup the other day. It was on my birthday. I made myself a little pancake. And like immediately after I felt like garbage. I was like, oh, I used to down a bottle of this in like 3 days. So
Ugh.
it's
I do too. Honestly, the Walden Farm maple walnut one, I used to go through like every other day, a bottle.
the blueberry one for me.
Mm.
But it's a learning curve that we've all had, but we've made these mistakes so you don't have to. Because it's not just as simple as like, I've got some gas. It's like you're destroying like your gut health, your microbial health, and it takes so much time and so much diligence. Whereas if you had just had some moderation along the way, you wouldn't be in the position where you have to cut it all out and eat the most bland food you've ever had in your life and reduce your meal intake. So just my greatest advice is just to be mindful and like implement the small things now so you don't have to go through the crazy gut protocol. Not that it's not going to happen to you, even if you do keep all these things in mind, just from a GDD standpoint, a stress standpoint, etc. But the more variables that you can control, the less likely you're going to be in a position where you end up having to do a crazy.
Yeah. The thing is, like, as bodybuilders, we tend to, like, break systems. That's why we need health phases, because we have to push ourselves to the extreme. But the thing is to, like, limit the damage control, right? It's like off season. Like, your calories are going to go up, right? You are going to have to eat more, to grow muscle. Yes, it's going to put on body fat, and that's still going to be more inflammation, right? So it's like managing your resources like a productive accountant is really important. So, like, making sure you have the right fiber sweet spot. For Laura and Mina, it's like, 20 to maybe 30, depending upon their food sources. For me, I can tolerate upwards of 40, 45, but I don't bug bomb one fucking meal 45 grams of fiber, right? I'm making sure that it's spread equally out of each meal. And also, quite frankly, like my calories are high, where it's like doing 25 grams of fiber on 3,600 calories, like I could do it, but it would mean that my meals wouldn't be as palatable as I would prefer. And I am someone that really enjoys being creative with my meals and using things to support my digestion in terms of, fruits especially. So it's like using dried fruits to keep volume low, but that's still going to have some fiber in it, right? But I'm also not using things like fucking strawberries and raspberries that are really, really high in that fiber, which is great, but like that's going to put me 50, 60 grams, and that's going to be not so great. So it is just finding your sweet spot, but also like micronutrient or macronutrients as well, making sure that your total protein isn't too high where you don't have the stomach that acid to digest it. If you're someone that has maybe like more of a sluggish liver or maybe like a history of like family history of cholesterol like I do, it's not that cholesterol is bad, but also like I already have to supplement TUDCA and glutathione into my supplement stack just because my liver is not the most robust, which means we need to keep track of like that bile flow so that way I do absorb and digest like my fat sources without causing like oily stools, which can absolutely happen in the off season as well. So it's like understanding that digestion isn't just like, the food quality, it's the how you were digesting your foods, the importance of your pancreatic health, your liver health, your digestive health, so that way the machine is functioning as smoothly as possible and you get the most out of your off season to grow muscle, or conversely contest prep to retain said muscle and also have a better time losing fat, right? Because like adaptations are naturally going to happen no matter what end of the spectrum you're currently in, but it's like limiting the severity of those adaptations and quite frankly the disruptions in your progress.
I think too a good one to kind of bring up in that is like no real I don't want to say no such thing as good or bad foods, but to an extent, yes. Because I know a lot of people have that mental connotation like, oh, I can't have cereal or oh, I can't have, bread or something like that, which is a like lower volume food, but is honestly a great carb source. you're not taking it by the meal, you're taking it
Okay.
as a whole for the day. If you're meeting your micronutrient goals and getting all of the different nutrients from having other fruits and this and sweet potatoes and whatever in your meal plan as a whole, I think that those are great options because, again, for people that do need a little bit lower fiber intake, that's a great way of having a low volume and quick carbs that are easy to digest.
Uh-huh.
I would love to personally circle back to the protein because I cannot tell you how many, like, whether it's clients or even opposing clients, they'll talk about their digestive issues. I'm like, how much protein are you eating today? And it's like a 112-pound girl and eating 200 grams of protein. Like, from a nutrient absorption, like, we just can't utilize that much protein. It's going to be like a point 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight, depending on if you're enhanced, how much muscle you have, etc. Um, but just talking about the ability to break that down and utilize it. And at the end of the day, we're still using it as energy, but that protein is going to, again, slow that, um, the, come on, brain,
Like slow
slow.
the gastric emptying because it's
Yes,
harder to break down.
thank you, thank you.
Got you.
And so I think that's something important to touch on because I know I have a lot of first time competitors. Maybe there's some first time competitors listening to this and just don't know what they don't know. And, um, they're heard like, oh, we need to eat 1 gram of protein or 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And then wonder why they have this digestive upset, why they're constantly belly distended, etc.
Yeah, I actually had a consultation with a 212 Pro and having horrible acid reflux and digestive health. And I was like, what are your protein? And it was like well over 300. And like, that's great that you're eating high protein, but you're not absorbing it, right? And we looked at his lab work and we saw a lot of like concerning things just because his body wasn't absorbing nutrients as it should, just due to the digestive stress. And I was like, dude, don't change your total calories. Just swap your protein and your carbs. Right, just literally swap them and like keep everything the same and like let that to help as well as adding in some other, you know, important, I would say, health marker supporting supplements in terms of his enhancement, right? And I'm not going to divulge into that, but it's like if you're stressing out your digestive system, you're stressing out your liver, especially as an enhanced athlete, like we have to respect like bioflow, cardiovascular stuff, even estrogen, right? Like we want estrogen, both males and females, quite frankly, to be in the sweet spot because it does help with kind of like the bile production from the liver and making sure, again, you are absorbing, your fat, vitamins and minerals and having a healthy level of cholesterol for supporting your hormones, right? Like all of these things in the right dosage are important for, yes, health, which I know we don't give a fuck about, but also like muscle growth and fat loss, right? So it's just like understanding that connection and understanding like what you need to do with your goals and where you're currently at in the context of are you in contest prep or are you like balls deep in off season? Any other thoughts there, ladies?
Totally agree. It's very dependent. And honestly, it's really dependent on the person too. Like I feel like we're seeing like I saw a post on social media the other day basically about women's enhancements and what women should or should not take or start off or whatever. And I saw it and my first thoughts were like somebody that is not coached or not super happy with their coaching experience is going to read this and then think this is applicable to me and I should be doing this. And it is so dependent on the person and usually trial and error. And
Uh-huh.
that's almost everything when it comes to bodybuilding experience.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it's important to also understand, like, let's say when you start an actual PED cycle, right? That's why it's important to look at labs prior because you want to see where your natural test is at and your natural estrogen. And then depending upon, like, are you just utilizing TRT or are you using like DHT derivatives that aren't going to aromatize? Like, how does that influence both your androgen to estrogen, like, ratio? Because that can impact motility. Or if you're using like orals, right? Like you have to understand that because of the way that those are metabolized in the body, that is more than likely going to stress out your liver and likely slow down digestion or suppress appetite. And that could be either good or bad, again, depending upon where you're at. Like maybe suppressing appetite is a win in prep, but then also depending upon what else you're taking in prep and how long you've been in prep, that could be adding more stress into the body. So limiting that exposure and using that tool properly to get the desired outcome of maybe a harder physique on stage, just as an example, without like adding too much stress and inflammation into the body where you actually end up kind of doing more harm than good. But like it is something where I think that's why it's important to cycle map and maybe not use drugs that you haven't been exposed to in contest prep just due
For
to the
sure.
variability and having no idea how your reaction is going to be. Because while there are female friendly PEDs, that doesn't mean that they are completely risk averse. And you have no idea, one, if your source is even real, because we're having a shortage right now, and two, like how you are going to react. Because how Mina reacts to a drug is going to be totally different than how Laura reacts to the drug, totally different than how I'm going to react to the drug, right? And so I think that's really important to kind of gain that awareness before just like covering your eyes and like jumping in the deep end because fuck it, we ball because you might not be balling for long.
I
Mm.
think something else to touch on in the realm of PEDs, you said don't try a compound that you haven't tried in prep. Don't switch your source in the middle of prep too, especially when it comes to orals. Because with our orals, we don't necessarily know what like it's when you take a pill, it's not just straight Anavar, it's Anavar and something. And oftentimes these whatever these compounds are pressed with or encapsulated with can cause some digestive upset. So all of a sudden you switch your supplier. Sometimes like I know there's extenuating circumstances and you have to, but if you've tried it, you know that it works and you don't get GI distress from it, you're not bloating, you're not gaining 10 pounds in a week for taking Anavar. Like, let's stick to this guy's stuff. Especially I don't know if we know it's real. Because I've seen some studies, just listening to some other podcasts, like it's very common for someone to have an experience where like again, anytime we take an androgen, we're probably going to see the scale go up a little bit, at least at first. But if we're seeing like 8, 10 pounds come on within a matter of days, it's probably an adverse reaction to whatever that pill is compressed with. So
Yeah, dog. If
mm,
you're gaining that much, like I would pull a blood panel ASAP and check your CRP, right? Because that could be like an immune inflammatory response that like you don't want it to like perpetuate because it could be something that like your body is clearly not having a good response to, right? And like chances are if you're gaining 9, 10 pounds in like a matter of a week when you start an androgen, you're gonna feel like dog shit, right? You're going to feel bad, so like get that
joints
shit
hurt.
checked. Don't yeah, like don't just be
Blow up.
great for your coach, right? Like don't be like, oh, I want to be a good like no, like go get bloods ASAP. Well, one, fucking stop taking the drug, go get labs drawn, and then obviously like tell your coach that like, hey, I'm having this reaction because like you don't know what the fuck it is. And you want to make sure you do damage control ASAP, not like, waiting 4 weeks into your growth phase, getting even more inflamed. Because like if you are having that reaction, I promise you it is not going to be quality tissue that you are adding. It is not.
People have the wrong vision of what PEDs are supposed to be like. I think that when you're an enhanced athlete, you shouldn't really feel a difference in that. Like maybe you feel a little stronger, or you're noticing you're less sore or whatever. But if you're having like a crazy differential, I would almost argue that it's either too much or not the right compound or whatever, because it should be just that little bit that gives you a little oomph to your training and recovery and whatever. But I feel like people are expecting something to go from like, doubling their weights in the gym immediately overnight. And that's not how it works. And that's not how things should be working. So having a more realistic expectation too is really needed.
Right. And to some extent, you are going to notice differences. You will notice like your muscles looking and feeling fuller. That's the drug that's supposed to be happening. You will notice strength gains in the gym. Granted, like I said, if you're like doubling and tripling your weights, chances are you weren't pushing yourself in the first place and you're just using drugs to like use that as an excuse to actually push yourself. But also, like, there is something to be said about it increasing your drive as it is going to be testosterone, right? It's going to be binding to receptors, especially like in your brain, that can influence your mood and your energy and kind of like I said, your drive, right? And depending upon the type of drug, whether it's something like maybe Primo or NPP, it can totally depend on maybe the degree at which you were affected. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, on Primo, I don't feel more aggressive because I absolutely the fuck do. I do feel more aggressive on Primo Poland, right? And so I'm not like wanting to use that as an excuse to go harder in the gym, but due to its reaction on me, because I have cycle mapped primo, I do feel more aggressive in the gym. That doesn't mean that I'm using dosages that are bonkers, because quite frankly, I can't, right? I notice that I will viralize way too much. And so therefore I can't push my primo high. So that's just like, again, my own experience, but I also don't want it to be like, if you're taking a PED, that you're not going to not notice stuff, because like you absolutely can, depending upon how you are being exposed to the drug, and then also the duration and dosage of said drug too. So I just wanted to be honest about my own experience.
I think you made a good point too about like almost like being reliant on progress to while being on the cycle. And that's kind of what I was
Mhm.
more so like
Got
referring
you.
to. Like that is what people are waiting for, to be strong and pushing and all of the things. You will notice maybe a little bit of a drop off in your strength coming off of the cycle, but your
Mhm.
intention and willingness to push yourself should be 0% different.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest, this is probably the first off season I've kept weights the same, or other than my little hiccup the last 2 weeks, um, between being totally natural and not, and still progressing even once no longer on anything. And it's a mentality change more than anything.
Yeah. You got anything to add, Miss Mina?
Well, I mean, I can certainly attest to like the increased drive, um, especially when I'm on like in PT. I'm pretty like I, it depends on where I'm at in my personal life, but I noticed a little bit more aggression with my PT. I noticed an exponential amount of strength.
Mhm.
Um, And it certainly does make a difference in the gym. And like I have enough experience. I know I've already gone through my laundry list of experience on here. Um to like I can really tell like a difference when I am on something and when I'm not. But I have that same mental shift before I spoke on of like, okay, I don't have the drugs, but I still I want this, so I'm still gonna train just as hard. And in the past, I probably used it as like, I'm not on anything right now, so like, I'm not gonna try as hard. I'm not gonna be able to recover as quickly. Like, you can always take an extra rest day if you don't feel recovering. But what is going to continue to drive that hypertrophy is continuing to push your weights as hard as you can. So just have that one shift myself, and then this is I don't know if this is the first season. This is one of the first seasons where I'm like, okay, I'm still continuing to get stronger in the off season, even though I am not utilizing anything right now. My
Mhm.
progress is, I'll be quite frank, my progress is a little bit slower. It's not like I'm going up a pin on the weight stack every single week. It might be one more rep, or I'm only able to maintain that strength, but I still don't utilize that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Um, it's only a magic pill or magic substance when you put the magic on it. 'Cause, like and I will be the first I'm never gonna be like, the drugs really don't do anything." If you're doing everything you're supposed to, they certainly do. But you have to be doing everything that you're supposed to be able to get those results that you're looking for that you see in other people.
Yeah, and also for them to sustainably stick too, right?
Yeah.
And that's like important for making sure that you're progressing before entering into an enhanced cycle, because like they do enhance, like that's kind of like in part of the name, but like also like let's also think about like if someone is not training or doing anything and they go on TRT, they're going to grow muscle. Like they will. Like that's like what testosterone is going to do, is increase that muscle mass. But as bodybuilders, like we're already doing, or we should be doing already, the right things to support muscle growth anyway. And so hence why adding in androgens is going to enhance and expedite those results. But like personally, how I set up like growth phases is making sure that like all the other variables are checked when it comes to sleep, pulling labs to make sure our hormones are in a good spot anyway, and making sure they're steadily in a surplus in their nutrition, and then also seeing that surplus be beneficial in the gym and recovery. So that way we get the most from the least when it comes to adding in drugs. And then depending upon like their level of compromise when it comes to viralization or exposure, like either a longer duration or a shorter duration, depending upon, again, also like maybe how we've mapped from prior cycles. But kind of going back to the digestive front when it comes to securing a longer growth phase is making sure your digestion isn't going to shit or isn't shit right off the gates, right? Because like your body grows and repairs through absorbing your nutrients, right? And that's why looking at your labs are so important to make sure that we're not seeing skewing in CBC, CMP, or, lipid profile, because like if your body isn't absorbing the nutrients you're eating, and I know Laura once had an off season where her food got stupid high, but like she also wasn't digesting them, which is why she had to continue to push food. But now she's doing it in a way where she's respecting food volume. She's looking at recovery to where her food is higher because, she needs that to recover and to train. But she also doesn't need to add insult to injury and push it so high because she's like covering up for the fact that she's not absorbing it and digesting it in the first place. Right. And that honestly just comes from learning curves. It truly does. We learn a lot more from our mistakes than our wins. But when we do start to learn from our wins and gain good momentum, it's good to reflect on why and how can I replicate that for future phases, right? Which is why I'm sure that all of us can attest to the fact that we're growing better with the right amount of food, the right amount of enhancements, because we're finally doing things properly.
Well, let's kind of circling back to we went pretty in depth with PEDs and saying like we need to be doing all the right things. That does include your gut health.
Mhm.
Because like if your gut health's off, your liver is off. Especially if you're taking a oral, that's absorbed in your liver burden. So if we're not even able to absorb the PEDs that we're taking, we're not going to be able to get them next time. So um, it's again just making sure that we're checking literally every other box before we start doing enhancements. I just wanted to circle back to that.
Yeah.
'Cause, you can be doing all the right things in the gym, you can be sticking to your diet, but if your gut is shit, so is your progress. So is the applicability of, you know, being able to utilize everything that you're
Mhm.
taking in the system.
Yep. Laura, any thoughts to that?
We know even your gut being shit, we've talked about it before, it's going to impact your training too. Like you can't brace, you can't push yourself in sets because it's uncomfortable, your stomach hurts, all of the things. So it's very much and you're going to make it even more uncomfortable while training if it's already stressed out because insult to injury there for sure.
Yeah, because it's important to know, even like if we talk about training and digestion, like making sure that you eat your pre-meal far enough away from your training session so it's not just sitting there like a brick in your stomach, or you're not burping, or you're not farting, or God forbid you get 2 or 3 sets in and then you feel like you're gonna shit your pants, right? It's like those are not like funny. Like I know it's fun to talk about farting, but like it's because farts are funny. It's not funny when you're farting out your shit. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like debilitating and embarrassing. So it's like if you're gonna eat a pre-meal, like at least I would say an hour and a half, 2 hours before you train. Now, if you are someone that works out at the ass crack of dawn like Laura, a smaller meal or no meal altogether, and at least EAAs, salt and water, and some carbs, right? It's like do what makes sense. But for me, like Austin has me doing a peri workout where it's like 125 grams of carbs pre, 50 to 70 intra, and then 125 to 150 post. I am not slamming all of that in a 3 hour window. Like I eat, I digest for 2 hours. I finish my intro workout about halfway through my workout. I then wait another hour after I finish my training to come down from such a high of being in the gym. I shower, I prepare the meal, talk to my husband, maybe get some work done, and then I eat. Right. So it's like we're talking like a 6, 7 hour phenomenon of what my eating window looks like. But that's what I need to do given how much food I need to eat, the intensity of which I need to train without causing digestive upset.
Don't be afraid to kind of play with too what's going to work best for you. I know there's a lot of like bro science of training and what it should be for timing meals and immediately eating protein as soon as you leave the gym and all of that. But I definitely encourage you to figure out what is going to be best from a digestive stance. It feels you can push yourself, you're not going to throw up, and maybe that is a smaller before and larger after, or vice versa. It's really going to depend.
Yeah, like the research shows that like really 3 hours after training is fine. And plus if you're having EAAs anyway in your intro, like you're fine, dog. You don't need to slam a Vitargo whey shake because I've been there, right? It's like I'm literally in the parking lot shaking up my Vitargo and protein, and then like downing that shit. And then in the car on the way home, because I'm still so sympathetically driven, I'm like farting my ass up in the car, wondering like what's going on, but then like, also slamming my Quest bars like left and right. So it's like I was fucking up so much because I was so focused on the minutia and gaining every little 0.1% that I was actually missing out on 30% of progress because of how fucking stressed out I was trying to make everything perfect, but missing out on the free shit because I thought I was better than that. But in reality, I was like, I wasn't. I was a little shit, and I ended up with shit progress.
One thing I always like that John Meadows used to talk about a lot is if you're someone similar to myself that trains really early in the morning, is almost front loading food for the day before, like your last meal of the day being a larger meal and then having, EEA, something small, whatever. And ever since I implemented that, I've noticed it's been like the sweet spot for me for what works well.
Sure. And that doesn't mean that Laura's doing girl dinner, because that doesn't mean that
Yeah.
she's not eating all day or just drinking caffeine and then like loading up. She's doing almost like what a runner would do and eating a larger dinner before bed to, again, just replete her glycogen stores in her muscles to train the next morning. But it doesn't mean she's macro hoarding. So although it sounds very similar, it's the intention behind it. Mina, go, because I know you were about to spit some facts.
Well, just a couple things. So you mentioned being in a sympathetic state post workout. So like all of that was to say like the anabolic window does not exist pretty much. But number two, like eating those meals really close to training or eating too soon after training, like you don't need to be eating your post workout meal in your car. Like you said, like it takes like let your heart rate come back down. You have to be in a parasympathetic state to break down and absorb and digest your food. You can't do that when if you're like eating your meal, your pre-workout meal and slamming a 400 milligram pre-workout at the same time. Those are going to work very inversely. So, I've been there, done it myself, which led to every time I was in the gym, I was like burping with that acid reflux, or like I do a top set and I'm like, I'm going to projectile vomit every. Also, if you're throwing up every single time you train, that's another issue
That's,
that we need.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
not
not an
funny.
accomplishment.
Like,
No,
I've definitely done it after sending a set way too hard, but also it's like, okay, every once in a while, especially like the bigger dudes, they truly might push themselves to that level. But again, if it's chronic, like, what are we doing? There was something that I wanted to add that was really good, and I can't think of it now. Um, Damn. Might I continue, and maybe it'll come back to me.
but something that I think you said that was very, very notable that I think a lot more people need to take into consideration is like missing the forest for the trees. You're
Yes,
focused on
I was trying to think of that saying and I couldn't think of it, so then I'll let it go.
Laura's like, logs!
like Lincoln logs.
Lincoln
But
logs.
I think it is super common too for like that, high performer type A individual. Like you get like, oh my God, like I didn't have my meal 25 minutes after my workout. Like now all my gains are gone. And like you're like, just eat when you can. Because you're missing out on that large, like you said, like 30% to try and get that 1%. And I think that's something that I've gotten better about as an athlete. Like some of this shit don't matter. Like if you have all the other things in place and you're able to like worry about the minutia a little bit, cool. That is going to make you that like 0.5% better. But you cannot focus on the minutia until you nail down the overall like good habits.
And especially
Uh,
because you're a pro, the gap of like getting those percents, it matters, I would say, a little bit more because
yeah,
you're at the next level. But like someone like me that like didn't have baseline muscle in the first place had no business like using Vitargo when I didn't even understand what it was in the first place. I was just told by a fit influencer that you need it. But I did remember what I wanted to say. If you are someone that that is newer and doesn't understand what we say when we say sympathetically driven, like think about pushing yourself in the gym. Your heart rate's high, blood pressure's high, you're getting, you're pushing yourself during your training. Like you are not going to be in a state to eat food, right? That's why if we are using an intro workout, like we're utilizing things that are already broken down, like EAAs, which are like the little building blocks of protein, and something like Gatorade or juice, or if you're super advanced, like carbolin or something like that, where it's like the particles are enough where like your body absorbs them a lot quicker versus having to sit down, chew, and have bigger particles or smaller particles that take like longer to digest, right? So that is something that we are talking about. But if you're unsure if whether or not you are like in a better state to eat, this is where think about your breathing. Are you like almost hyperventilating up in your chest, or can you actually do big, deep belly breaths, right? And if you can't get that deep belly breath yet, you don't have to eat right now, right? Like you can wait. You'll be okay, right? You're not missing on any anabolic window, like Mina said, but like prepare yourself to actually receive the nourishment, not just like slamming things down because some science bro that doesn't have muscle mass worth a goddamn anyway told you to do so, right? Like set yourself up for success for doing what you need to do, having trial and error like Laura even mentioned, but also like not covering up, poor digestive health because you really, really want to grow and think PEDs are the only way to do it, because I promise you they're not. Right. In fact, they can make things a hell of a lot worse if you're not checking off the boxes and having like good overall systematic hygiene when it comes to sleep, digestion, stress management, all the things, because like you will get a better effect from that PED versus like even worse side effects. Any
Yeah.
final notes?
That's it.
I love it. What's everyone slamming on Thanksgiving?
The ocean. We're going to Miami tomorrow. Sunday.
Oh,
Tomorrow,
fun. Well, you slam that. You slam that ocean. What about you, Mina? What are you slamming?
Sweet potato fluff with some the marshmallows and like the candied nuts.
Sweet
Um,
potato casserole. I see you.
and then Garrett, he's impressed. We're going to my dad's because it's close by. He's gonna make some chocolate chip cookies. I have to send you guys some. It's literally the best chocolate chip cookie I've ever had. Not too sweet. Got the flaky sea salt on top. So we're not gonna
Oh.
we're gonna indulge appropriately, but I am excited for those.
That's fun. I'm excited for
How do
you.
you stamp this host? Like, I want to know what your favorite thing to eat is and what your favorite thing to make.
Ooh,
For
so
Thanksgiving.
for
Specific.
me, hmm, I would say the thing that I'm going ham on is my grandma's cornbread stuffing, because like that is her family recipe and it slaps titties. And so that's the one thing that like I'm gonna definitely get a second plate of, because I only make it once a year and only have it once a year, and I want to enjoy it once a year. Um, as far as like making it, it's very lackluster and like the complexity. So it's not my favorite thing to make because it doesn't challenge me. My favorite thing to make is pecan pie, actually, because I think it's fun. And I am that almond mom or that pecan mom that doesn't just like dump the fucking pecan. Like, no, I layer that shit and make a pretty design on top. And it takes so much so much longer to like do it that way, but it's so much prettier. And I think that's more fun. So those are my answers.
Do you make the crust? And I already know the answer to this, but you make the crust from scratch too, don't you?
So here's the deal. I have in the past, absolutely. But because I try to one up myself, I do make the yeast rolls. And so I have a rule with myself. So therefore, I don't get too overwhelmed. It's you either make the pie crust or you make the yeast rolls or the bread. And because Eric has been really enjoying the yeast rolls, I do make those from scratch. And so I don't, again, add insult to injury by trying to like overdo it, because I want to enjoy the holidays and actually enjoy the cooking and baking process without having my anxiety get the better of me and try to like overdo it, because I have done that and then I'm an anxious mess. My gravy ends up not being how it should be because I'm trying to do too many fucking things at once. And so I'm like, listen, you need to enjoy this process, not overwork yourself to death, which is very easy to do if you're Ash Markham. So long story short, I no longer do it.
I could definitely see being like, so I'm making the pie crust. I'm making twice proven yeast roll, like everything from scratch. 'Cause I've been there, Jen.
I have
What
done that, and my Thanksgiving was messy for me because I was just too overwhelmed, because it is a lot of working parts to make sure you make the pie crust ahead of time, making sure that you're blind baking it so you don't have a soggy bottom. And I'll be honest, Pillsbury just does it better than I do. I'll be honest, it's not my strong suit.
Sometimes that's just the case.
are you guys just gonna go out to eat or
So I
you
don't know exactly, because initially our plans were to leave here Sunday and come home I think it was like midday on Thursday. But Josh actually has a client competing in Miami Saturday morning. So we're gonna go to prejudging, extend our trip 2 days, and fly home. But I'm assuming that everything kind of shuts down. So
Chinese food.
yeah, honestly, we're staying at one hotel and it's next to Whole Foods, so I'll get some stuff just in case we whatever.
Like a Whole Foods Thanksgiving for one. Get like a rotisserie chicken and
Probably not because I don't really like Thanksgiving food, but I will get some type of like fun treat, ice cream, almond milk, whatever. That's more sort of my style of having something fun to look forward to.
I'm
Have you
one
ever
time.
had that? Because you say you're lactose intolerant, right? The Whole Foods is like chantilly cake, almond milk ice cream is fucking awesome. Awesome.
They make it into an ice cream.
Yes.
So I'll probably be getting some of that.
It's got
'Cause
like raspberry swirls in it too. It's
yeah, I
Wow.
do love. I'm like an ice cream hoe.
Me
This is
too.
part of the reason why I messed up my reverse last time. Like, I don't even want to say how many pints of ice cream I downed in probably like a 3 week period. Uh,
But it
so
was a lot.
like this is how Garrett's 250 pounds of muscle, so he could get away with it. We would buy 2 pints, cut them in half with like a knife, and then both eat a whole pint of ice cream. Again,
I love that you like cut them in half.
They're
Love
they're
that.
partners in crime. This is why it works out. I see it now.
except for the part where like he's not gonna listen to this. Our coach isn't gonna listen to this, but like Garrett really didn't reverse last time, and coach was like, "Great reverse, you crushed it, you killed it." And I'm sitting over here, I'm like,
The
"So
fuck?
if I do the same thing, I did not."
Yeah, no,
No.
we don't have that luxury as females. I literally watch Josh eat pizza and Ben and Jerry's every fucking day. It doesn't change with a six pack still. So
I'm like, we talked about on our last pod not taking free meals. Part of that is just like I don't feel like I need to. The other thing is I'm like, I honestly don't know at this point if I could handle. I think people underestimate how many calories are in food. Like a simple burger and fry, it's gonna be like a 1,200 calorie cheat meal,
easy.
not including let's say half a pint of Ben and Jerry's. That's putting us upwards of 2,000 calories. I don't know if my metabolic capacity is there yet. I feel like if I did like a real cheat meal per week, I might get a little chunky. And that's not a fear of food. It's just like,
Well,
I want to save it for when it's a special occasion.
think of it this way. Then I have this conversation with people a lot. Like, would you rather your like daily calorie intake slowly walk up a little bit faster, or have a 2,500 calorie cheat meal and then you divide that by 7, and then your on average calories for the week is up even higher? I personally would rather eat more healthy food that I'm not like constantly hungry.
That's
Or
why
you're
I
Ash Markham and you're fucked in both ways, where you have to eat a fuck ton of food Monday through Saturday. And when I ate my burger, fry, and ice cream in a fucking waffle cone, I maintained weight the next day.
That's
So,
unreal.
yeah, what?
That's unreal. I mean, that's not real. I feel like you usually have a pretty high metabolic rate coming out of a prep, but this is definitely higher than usual. No.
which
I
she told me she was like, I eat a piece of bread with every meal. And I told her, I was like, what is it like to live my dream?
I mean, like I said, like I reversed well. I'm proud of myself for sticking to it and not giving in, even though when I wanted to. And I'm excited to grow because I have a huge runway for growth. We'll be adding enhancements too. We might be trying different compounds, which is exciting, and I'll be honest about that. It is just, it's so funny because like I said, I was literally taught in exercise physiology that when you go from being morbidly obese to
Yes.
not, like your metabolism's ruined forever. And I'm like, it's because y'all ain't lifting weights and taking care of yourselves. But I just think it's very, very funny where it's like, okay, my metabolism's ruined and I have to eat at least like 3,500 calories on my training days. Like, and that's like my medium day. Because if I get a free meal on top of that, we're pushing 4,000 calories. But that doesn't mean that like to your point, I don't eat a burger, fry, and ice cream every fucking weekend. Like that would get old really, really quick. And plus, like a lot of the times, my free meal, I don't want it to be about the food. Like sometimes it can be, but most of the time, I just want to like have a fucking dinner date with my husband and be normal.
For sure.
It's
More
like,
about the experience. That's how it should
Yeah. But all that to say this, I am going to eat 2 helpings of cornbread stuffing and not give a fuck.
And I love cornbread, so please let me know. Well, don't you
Do
already
you want
said
me to
it?
do an ASMR where I'll be like, Mina,
I
it's really
actually
moist. Okay, I'll do an ASMR for you. My friend Kennedy bought me sourdough bread and she was like, can you do ASMR toast? And I actually did that for her.
like clicking on the bread and then I can't remember if I told you this already or said it on I told someone right before my show, my last nail appointment. I go to the same nail tech every time, and it was his birthday, so I ordered these giant cream puffs. And he like went to put them away. I was like, "Can you eat them in front of me real quick?" And he
She
was
was
like, "I got you, bro." So I would love like a video of it. So I really love cornbread. The inner Southern farm girl in me. Have you ever had fried cornbread?
No.
So you take the batter and then like you fried cornbread, spoon cornbread, but you spoon it into oil,
Isn't
let
that
it
just hush puppies though?
I don't think so.
I
Hush
thought hush.
puppies, I feel
Southern.
like hush puppies
Southern.
have more like baking soda and things to make them a little bit more fluffier and cakier, where these are almost like a little bit more dense, less goofy.
Okay.
I don't know the exact recipe. I'm sure they're similar, but not quite the same. At
They're in
least
the same family of fried dough
Mhm.
balls.
I feel like I haven't lived. I haven't experienced any of these.
well, this is from a former fat person, so
God bless. All right,
not
ladies, it was great talking to you. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. Laura, safe travels. Mina, safe
Yeah.
travels. And we'll catch you guys next week. Actually, no, we won't because it's really
no.
Thanksgiving. So let's reconvene in 2 weeks then. Or no, wait. Will you guys be
Next
back
Friday,
Friday?
I would be available. I don't. Laura's gonna be in Miami, right?
Yeah.
I imagine we're just kind of lounging for the day. So if so, unless for some reason we do some type of like an excursion that we're going off somewhere, I don't mind taking an hour to do this.
Tell you what, let's break because I have family in town and I do have client check-ins that morning. But if I could have the afternoon with them, I would prefer that. So we'll catch you guys in 2 weeks then.
Good. See you in 2 weeks.
Happy
Love you.
Thanksgiving. Bye.